Hey everyone, greetings. It's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout, and I'm here today talking about some very newsworthy subjects with one of our favorite guests and our sponsor from American Alternative Assets, Shanon Davis. Welcome back, Mr. Davis.
Happy to be back. Always love spending some time with you.
It's always so much fun, and I always learn so much. And I'm an English major, so I'm always surprised that I can get as much out of talking about the economy and money and finance, and the kind of dire looming crises in our financial system that I do when I talk to you, because even I can follow it, right? And saying a lot from my non-financial background. So we've talked a lot on this show about government overreach. We've talked about surveillance. We've talked about mandates, which I hope we never see again. We've talked about government trying to censor the information coming our way. And you've made the case that there's a form of control that most people don't add into those categories of the state is coming to control me, or, the system's coming to control me, and it's financial. So you've talked about the national debt, money printing, the push toward digital currency, and I'm going to say, these are not separate stories. They're all related. All these forms of control are the same story. Shanon Davis, of course, you guys know, is the COO of American Alternative Assets, as I mentioned. And he's been watching this unfold from the financial side. So welcome back, and talk to me about what's on your mind when you think about our debt, $39 trillion.
Yeah, I think that is a great place to start with something real. It blows my mind. Our debt as a country, almost $39 trillion now. We've talked about it. I talk about it often with a lot of different people, just parents, coworkers. It's now on people's mind. I mean, when you look at the numbers, when you really look at where this country is financially, it's hard to even say it out loud without sounding like a conspiracy theorist. The United States government is in so much debt. I wanted to have a little fun. Let's have some fun, Naomi. I want to go over and put it in perspective in like seconds to minutes with our debt, right? We gotta have a little fun. We get too serious in life. But if to put it in perspective, 1 million seconds, how long do you think that is? Just a guess.
Oh, now I'm gonna embarrass myself with my
Me too. I wouldn't know. It's 12 days. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Okay, thank you.
No, we're having fun. But so 12 days, 1 million seconds, 1 billion seconds, that's 32 years. 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years. And so, yeah. So the United States is over $38 trillion in debt. And so in seconds, that's over 1.1 million years, and it's growing by 93,000 every single second we're sitting here talking. So that's 285,000 per American household. So interest just crossed for our debt over $1 trillion a year for the first time in history. And we got to refinance a lot of our debt coming up this year now, and that's gonna go up to 1.5 trillion once we refinance our debt. We have about almost $12 trillion that has to be refinanced. So,
oh my gosh,
it's I don't know how people are paying attention to that. Our interest has nearly tripled in just 5 years. So some food for thought.
Oh my gosh, I can tell you my immediate reaction when you're speaking, and it's the first time, this is why I love talking to you about money and finance. It's the first time I've heard someone create a way for me to visualize what is $1 trillion that, in comparison to 1 million, that is real and that my brain can process. Because otherwise you're just like 1 million, billion, trillion, whatevs, like it's all a lot. But you're describing something cataclysmic. I also immediately am thinking, well, you said we're 39 trillion in debt. Is that where we're at? And and we have $1 trillion in interest. How did that happen? That's like a giant interest rate.
Yeah, well, we borrow money. That's, we have to pay back money too. I mean, treasuries, there's where we get a lot of our money that we borrow. We have to pay the interest on that to countries that own them, people that own them.
But isn't that kind of a high interest rate as it is? Like,
oh yeah, definitely. That's why Trump's trying to hammer this thing down. That's why there were 0% interest rates for a long, long time.
Right.
And a lot of that money is still circulating around, and it needs to be refinanced now at almost 4%.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then this is another confession I want to make. I'm having a lot of feelings. I'm in DC today, as I mentioned before the camera started rolling.
Yeah.
And it's a weird feeling, honestly, because I've been an advisor to the Clinton, teams and war teams, and I was a White House spouse during the Clinton years as well. And the city I'm in feels completely different than it ever has. And what it feels like, I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Like two halves of the country represented by their own lobbyists and their own elected officials and so on, that used to kind of be aligned in a polite fiction that was kind of manageable, but that has been torn apart, and it's a battle to the death, and a lot of it is sinking and crushing and falling away. I'm just describing this, I guess what I try to always be nonpartisan, but Republicans would say, or people who support this administration would say, that's the death of the deep state. And if you'll give me a few minutes, I'm going somewhere with this. Of course, Democrats would say he's killing off all these important programs. He's killing off, what makes us function. They have their own criticisms.
Right.
But it's a sense of, these institutions ripping in half, and this, there's no longer a veneer, right? Like the pure money machine is kind of stripped bare. It's a feeling. It's like being in a city during a war, which I've had that experience,
Right.
But having said that, my taxi driver from Union Station, when I arrived, you learn so much from taxi drivers, was very angry at this administration because he said so many people have been let go from the federal government, and what that is doing is they can't pay their mortgages, their kids are in school, and also restaurants are closing, cab drivers can't make as much money, so there's not the same amount of money going back in taxes. How is that good? And what I said to him in my English major way was, well, I see your point, but also those jobs are taxpayer funded jobs, and I said $1 trillion in debt. I was not remembering correctly that it's $1 trillion interest on a debt. And I basically said to him, if there aren't cuts made, all along the line, we just can't go on the way we have. It's unsustainable. We'll go bankrupt. But the two of us, as just ordinary citizens with, different points of view, we're both looking at the same thing. And he's looking at the negative of that austerity, and which is real. Restaurants are closing. People have left the city. You feel it, right? They can't afford their mortgage in Chevy Chase anymore. But I'm thinking of you. I was literally thinking of you, Mr. Davis, because I was thinking, okay, I hear you, but we couldn't afford to go on the way we were. What are your reflections on our exchange, apart from my error in the scale of our debt?
Yeah, I think, it resonates, I think, with a lot of people, right? It's policies are always changing. That taxi driver isn't in Trump's best interest. That's for sure. He's seen a labor market that has been at a screeching halt, right? There's been a hiring freeze since COVID. He's seen a price shock since 2019. Prices have increased and they're never going back.
Wow.
So he's seeing that. You're seeing people people are leaving big cities like this, going to small little cities in Arkansas to make it affordable for them to live. Do they want to go there? No.
Right.
So this is what's resonating and echoing through all the communities. It's tough.
Wow.
He wasn't able to lower our deficit, and that's why that's no longer being talked about. They were trying to do that.
Wow.
That was the whole Elon Musk and Donald Trump partnership. They were trying to lower the deficit, and they couldn't. Do it. And so, but everybody forgot about that, and we've moved on to his most recent rhetoric. But what we do need to be careful about, because it's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's so much bigger than that. It's the United States government has a money printer, and no matter who's in charge, they use it, right. And that's how they use it to keep the economy going.
Right.
Trump's one big beautiful bill. These are the things that are happening. He wrote that bill. He's got the Genius Act, where stablecoin is going to be how our currency is pegged to the dollar through a stablecoin. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, that's a nonpartisan group that sources all kinds of good information that are at people's fingertips. But at 3.3 to 3.4 trillion added to deficits over 10 years, that's what's happening.
So are you saying all that like metaphorical bloodshed of Doge killing programs and letting people go was for no reason? It didn't do any good?
Well, they couldn't truly get to the root of the deficit and correct it. If you do, now you're starting to mess with Social Security, Medicaid, and that's political suicide. If you start hacking away at those programs, which something has to give. I mean, it's one of our biggest unfunded debts that we have, if not one of the biggest. It's like,
I hear you, and that's pretty serious. But I guess what I'm asking is, was I more right, or was my taxi driver more right? In other words, should those?
You're both right. You're both right. Okay. There's no right or wrong here. I mean, there's trouble everywhere.
Right. Did it help to let all those extra federal employees go? Let me just ask that. Or was it just a drop in the barrel?
Another drop in the barrel. They didn't help, number one. And it's just another drop in the barrel with whatever plan Trump's got. I don't see it clear as day. I mean, what is he really doing?
Right. Wow. Okay. Well, we're both right. I'm glad to know that. If I picked up by him again, I'll because we weren't fighting. It was a great conversation, but we both felt like, if she only sees it my way, which I guess is, good in America for people to have this exchange. And your point is, this didn't happen just under one party. Both of them have been printing money, right?
It's been happening for years.
Right. Oh my gosh. So what do we need? You pointed out that the problem is bigger than that, and that there's a $500 billion to the deficit in 2026 alone. My gosh. And there's more being added all the time. So keep talking about these debts. Your math that I'm looking at here just terrifies me. You're itemizing vast trillions being added to the existing vast trillions, like last year and this year and next year. Talk about those items in your terrifying laundry list.
Well, what should concern us and what concerns me and my family is what's coming next, really, is what I'm paying attention to, because there's a political movement gaining real power in this country right now. I mean, you've got your backyard, Zoran, right? He's a self-described democratic socialist now, the mayor of New York City, over 250 socialist members holding public office, 90% elected in 2000.
Wait, slow down.
Yeah.
There are 250 socialist elected officials holding office. Did I hear that?
From the data we're getting. And so,
across the country?
Across our country, 62% of Americans under 30 view socialism favorably. I mean, this stuff better than I do, Naomi. What are you seeing?
But I always hope I'm wrong and that I'm in a weird corner of the internet. But to have someone like you who's in touch with very mainstream, news trends and data trends confirming it, that's very scary. I also had not heard the 250. So at all levels, like federal and state.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And 60% of them of kids under 30, young people under 30 see socialism positively. Go ahead.
Yeah. 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 I won't stay in your back. That's your back of the yard. But what it means is, he inherited $12 billion in deficit on day one. So that it's everywhere. The debt is everywhere. So that's what he inherited day one, responded by spending more money, right? 30-hour minimum wage, free buses, free childcare, city-owned grocery stores, rent freezes, right? This is in every city. Last week threatened 9.5% property tax hike on everyone.
Yeah.
That's happening everywhere.
Why do these cities keep voting these socialists in who are so bad for property owners' own pocketbooks?
Yeah, I wish you and I would be sitting at the top of the mountain if we knew that answer. I couldn't tell you. I think my personal opinion, and it would be just they're looking for something new. Maybe it's all old stuff, fresh blood. Maybe they're believing the narratives,
right?
The economic philosophy behind all of it. Maybe.
I'll share with you that I'm not at all convinced that these socialist mayors are getting elected honorably because, I've done lots of work on election integrity and the machines, and I represented a candidate. I don't think we talked about this. Maybe we did for city council in the last election. To this day, she doesn't have an official letter from the Board of Elections about whether she won or lost and by how much. And to this day, New York state law allows me to launch a 3% paper ballots hand count, just any citizen. And the Board of Elections is standing in my way, even as multiple instances under affidavit of problems with the vote, specifically feeding double votes into the machines, are emerging. So that's just an aside, but I hear you. Whether or not these people are elected correctly, there's a groundswell of support for socialism, and socialists are getting in power. So keep talking about what's coming down the pike.
I think that just is what people really have to open their eyes. Like, that's why it blows my mind. Like, pay attention to debt, pay attention to what exactly you're saying. And, this is exactly why we built the company and why we educate, is because you're losing control in every corner you can think about. And this is, the last livelihood of control that some people may have, right?
And that's precious metals, gold and silver.
Gold, silver, is real money. It has been for over 5,000 years, and it can't be manipulated and can't be thrown on a digital platform. You can't just turn the money printer on,
right?
And that money printer, it doesn't belong to just Democrats or Republicans. It's a U.S. deal, right? So no, I'm sold. Can I go a little further in this what's coming down the pike question? Yeah.
You're persuading me categorically that, in the next 10 years, we could just become led by socialists. So, sorry.
I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Well, yes. I mean, I think we may have been led by socialists or communists under the Biden administration, and through foreign powers. That's another conversation. But certainly when I look at, we spend a lot of our time in Massachusetts. When I look at the mayor of Boston, doing things that no one voted for, the governor of California, doing things that there's no, political appetite for, boosting homelessness, boosting drug addiction, opening borders, creating sanctuary cities. I consider myself nonpartisan, but just speaking as a political consultant, these are not winning, boys and girls sports. These are not winning policies for anyone, for any homeowners. Just thinking of middle-class people who own property in New York, you said Mamdani's in my backyard, and I was thinking, well, he's actually in my kitchen demanding another 10% of my, property taxes before I can go in and make breakfast. So So yes, I believe you. I believe it's a much bigger deal than we even realized.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with this is two things.
Yeah.
One is you're making me see everything in a whole new light. The Bolsheviks crashed the Russian economy soon after they seized power in 1917. And they toyed with currency as well, as I recall, but they crashed it intentionally. So question number one, do you think there's an element of socialists trying to crash our economy by, making things so crazily unsustainable and insane, like Mamdani's, we're 12 billion in debt in the city, but we're going to give, millions or billions to illegal immigrants, right?
Right.
And second question, if indeed these young adults who don't mind socialism, who like it, get a little older and they're in power, isn't the risk that they'll say, okay, devil's advocate Shannon Davis, yeah, we're a gazillion dollars in debt and capitalism isn't working. The system can't be saved. Let's throw it all out and, create a completely new kind of economy, which is.
Yeah, good questions. Yeah, the first one, and again, if I'm hearing you correctly, just because the second one I was really listening to the most. But
the first one is, are they trying to crash the economy the way the Bolsheviks did?
Yeah, well, there's definitely debasement of the dollar going on from what experts that we follow are saying. And that's where you create so much debt that you have to change the monetary system. And everything now with technology, it's all on digital platforms. Central bank digital currencies are real. Stable coin is real. Read the Genius Act. The whole purpose of us getting together is just to give some resources to people that they can go out and educate themselves on. Like, read the Genius Act, and you'll see that stable coins are real. They're going to be pegged to the dollar 1-to-1 and the treasuries, because no one's buying them. So something has to give when you get to $39 trillion and the big beautiful bill's adding another $4 to $5 trillion to it. And so at some point there's got to be a transition, and that's what's going on today. And so, yeah, there is definitely an element to that. And the second question was like socialists being able to just.
These young socialists, now they're 20, in a few years they'll be 25, a few years they'll be 30, they're in charge, they're running for office. At that point, someone like you says, hey, we're $50 trillion in debt. And they say, too bad, doesn't matter. Let's give up, all the more reason to give up on capitalism. It doesn't work. We can never redeem our system. Let's just go to a centrally planned economy with the state owning the means of production.
100%. And that's the whole point. That definitely can happen. And that's why you want to be somewhat out of the systems, right? Gold and silver is outside of the system, because this is really something that could potentially happen. Does it happen in 30 days, in 3 years, in 10 years? There's a lot of variables to that, but it's happening day to day in front of our lives. I mean, look at it. And so, yeah, those two scenarios are happening and can happen very quickly. Things move quickly. And so it's about being just prepared and having some safe haven to always fall back on. And that's gold and silver.
You're like, every time I talk to you, I feel like my mind is thoroughly blown, and things I used to believe I no longer believe. But this is you've now taken me to the end of capitalism, the end of our system as a real possibility, something that is not out there in la la land, but could actually be dawning and emerging. And I see it, like, we're surrounded by communists in New York, things I never thought I'd see in Brooklyn, a working class neighborhood in Brooklyn, by the way. There are Marx stickers. Like, how is this possible?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, there are like, destroy the ruling class system. I mean, language you haven't heard since like the 20s and 30s in Europe. Like, seriously. It's shocking to me. I thought capitalism lived in lived in the past, but they're thriving in Brooklyn.
Well, this is the point. It's right. It's yes, we're talking about some eye-opening things, and we're following similar narratives out there that resonate with us. But it's right in front of you, right? Things are changing,
Right.
and so be prepared for some changes. Is really what it's about.
Oh my gosh. Well, now let me ask you another very cynical question. You're describing stablecoin. You said it's pegged to the dollar. So my question there is, how can it do better than the dollar? Isn't it going to have all the same vulnerabilities as the dollar?
Well, the concern isn't about it being better or worse. It's about the controllability of stablecoin. It's programmed.
Oh, the government can just say, now it's worth 1/10 of what it was yesterday.
Correct. I mean, way back when Germany, that empire fell, the Deutsche currency, they lost 90% of the value of their dollars at that time overnight. And so who knows? That's the thing. I don't know. I don't know what that conversion rate could be, but that's a way. If you convert it less, that's a way of getting rid of some debt. If you add negative interest rates to it, this can spark an economy to spend some money. There's just no control as an individual. And so this is what the Genius Act is rolling out. They need to peg it to the dollar to keep the world currency ours, the reserve currency ours, and they need to sell treasuries, right? That's our backbone as a country.
So now you're talking about the Genius Act, which I confess I haven't read and haven't followed closely. Can you summarize for people what the issue is there, and what they should be worried about with that?
Well, it's written into federal law, like into our financial system, the actual stable coin, and at some point they're going to have to get out of a dollar that has lost over 97% of its purchasing power since the Fed was created in 1913. I mean, this is just Google it, right? This is stuff. This isn't my facts. These are just real information out there. And so at some point, something's got to give.
Yeah. So do you feel like that's really so scary? And it's passed. The Genius Act has passed. I should know this.
Yeah, July 18th of last year.
Last year.
Yeah, by Congress. By Congress.
So that'll make Congress and whatever administration is in charge of the execution of the stablecoin the most powerful financial entity, at least in America, right?
Yeah, I mean, then just look at his nominee here that he elected, Warsh, right? Warsh is going to be our Fed chairman. He's got a heavy footprint now in the digital platform. He's putting his pieces together. And so, again, when does it happen? It's just about being prepared, having diversification in your retirement and savings accounts outside of dollar bills that aren't worth what they used to be. I think we all know that.
Oh my goodness. And right now, the stablecoin may be in the hands of an administration some of our listeners support, but tomorrow it could be in the hands of Kamala Harris.
Well, yeah. Well, that will end. They promote it as cleaner data, more efficient. Obviously it's currency that can trade like that. So they obviously highlight the positives, but there's a lot of corruption within our political system, and something like that in the wrong person's hands, who knows?
Right. Oh my goodness. So, I'm just processing this. Do you think, just like the communists over here had their eye on, our economy for their own reasons, do you think the stablecoin and the Genius Act are a result of big tech? So, like, basically they're rivals to the Treasury Department and to U.S. currency that is dollars and cents and coins and paper. Do you think this is big tech aligning with President Trump, which they did clearly, vice versa, to create a rival to Treasury-based currency?
No, this is a way to move more treasuries. It really just comes down to less and less countries are using our dollar bill, right? China They have their own digital currency.
Right.
They have been pushing that for a long time. They trade in that currency. They trade in gold. They buy oil from Saudi Arabia and gold. I mean, they're doing.
Do they really? How physically does that happen? How does someone buy oil in gold? They literally send coins.
They send gold to them, and Saudi Arabia puts it. They have their own depository now out there that they've built. China built it for them. That was the only way. That's a whole nother discussion. But the point being is, less and less countries are using our dollar bill. Less and less countries, and same with our consumers out there, don't have the confidence that they had in the country. I certainly don't, and I'm not trying to doom and gloom anybody here, but like, I do not trust the government as much as I did back in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. I mean, as time continues to go on, when you start losing trust in a currency, you tend to not use it as
right.
much. And so that's why we need something else to generate purchasing of treasuries. And that's why it's pegged to the treasury. Like, we need that.
Right. So this is terrifying. It's all terrifying. So what are the people who actually understand this chessboard doing about it? You know, what are insiders doing about this very fragile situation for the dollar and this, you know, the rise of stable coin, you know, the generational emergence of socialists waiting to lead and doing to everything what Mamdani is doing to New York? What are people on the inside doing?
Yeah, I mean, smart money. They're moving out of certain markets. They're moving out of dollars. They're moving into real estate, gold and silver. But they're not waiting. They're doing. Right. They're not reacting. They're being proactive. You know, they're taking some ownership for them and their family. Insiders obviously have a much different playbook than we do. But, you know, when you see what the central banks are doing, not what they're saying, but what they're actually doing, and central banks around our entire world, they're buying physical gold and silver. They own more gold than treasuries now, which this is the first time in history. So gold doesn't care who the president is. It just responds to what the money printer does, right? It's an inverse relationship. Right. So as our dollar bill continues to go down, and trust in our dollar bill, and when trust goes down, and consumers are seeing that, look, I can't afford anything anymore. You had this conversation with the taxi driver. There are thousands of people just like that in the city of DC that have the same concerns he has and the same struggles he has. And in New York, here in California, I mean, I have it within my own family. So, what people are doing, that we talk to, is they're educating themselves on what the Genius Act is. They're educating themselves on the digital currency, central bank digital currency. You just got to look it up, and it's plain as day what's going on. And that's what the insiders are doing. That's what regular Americans are doing. They're educating, but they're also preparing themselves for changes that always come. History repeats itself over and over again.
It does. And I want to ask you some questions about history in a minute, but our friend James Green, hey James, says, I don't trust the ATM, but I'm in a debit card economy in which my bank teller won't stop questioning my cash withdrawal. I'm not sure if he's supporting what you're saying or questioning it. James,
no, that resonates with a lot of our customers. I had a customer. He was trying to move some money from his checking, from his savings to his checking, so that he can send some money and get his account funded with us, so he can purchase some gold and silver. He's an older gentleman, so he's strictly looking for preservation. And it took 3 days for them to move it. They kept questioning him on what he was buying. What are you using the cash for? When clients try and send a wire, why are you sending this wire? Who are you sending this wire to?
Oh my gosh!
question or concern or whatever it may be that he just brought up, James, if I got the name right, that's a common thread. Like even you try and take $10,000 out of your savings account, they're gonna give you the fifth degree on like why.
I experienced this. I tried to take money out for a down payment on a property, and this was a bank. My bank, TD Bank, recently got in a lot of trouble for, I think it was money laundering.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But that's not my problem. I'm not laundering the money. You know, I have.
You are.
right, exactly. But I had to tell them everything was for, and when I tried just as a Fourth Amendment, absolutist to say, it's none of your business. It's my money. Literally, right. I couldn't go anywhere, and they were embarrassed about it, but they had to do it. And I wonder what would have happened if I had said, I want to buy gold and silver. I wonder if they would have made it even more difficult.
Who are you buying it from? I've even had a client who we've sent $2 million of metals to that he stores at his house. Mm-hmm. Go to the bank because he was gonna purchase some more because it's been doing extremely well, even with the slight correction we've seen. Mm-hmm. And they asked him, do you know who that company is? Is it a scam? Do you trust them? Mm-hmm. And he's already got it sitting in his hands at home. So I go through it all the time, trying to pay a vendor or a partner or something like that. They call me and ask me, who am I sending it to? Why is their address in Las Vegas? Have you sent money to them before? It's just a common thread now because our economy it's broke. Banks are not sitting on liquidity. They're
you made this point when in our last one or two conversations that banks themselves are broke, and in the kind of thank you to sponsors I'm going to read at the end of this segment, it points out that we think our retirement accounts are sitting safely in a bank, but the banks are not doing so well. Do you want to remind people of that point you made so they can understand why?
Yeah. I mean, a bank just, I don't know exactly. It was a credit union, smaller bank. There was one that just closed in January in Chicago.
Oh my gosh.
The FDIC came in and took it over. And then a bigger bank came in and took it over. So they shut down on a Friday. No one even knows. And then Monday they reopen. It's another bank that owns them. If there were some debts, who knows? If they need to liquidate accounts, security boxes, it's not. You're just a debtor to the bank, right? It's their money technically. Have you ever read the agreement with your bank? Yeah.
Really, the terms of service say this is essentially our money and you're a debtor to us?
Correct. Yeah. And it's saying read it. That's all I could say. Read your annuity contract if you own an annuity contract. They're eye-opening stuff. So why they're questioning him every time he tries to take money out is because they're like, wait, where are you putting this money? Why isn't it staying here?
Right.
You should put this in one of our CDs for 3.5% when inflation is more than that. Right. That's why they're always pitching. My wife, she moved some money, and I told her, I said, when you go put this in the bank, because she got it from one place and they gave her a check, and we bank with Bank of America. Is it a good bank, a bad bank? I don't know. Yeah, I keep my eyes on it. That's all.
Sure.
But they instantly wanted her to put that into a CD for 9 to 12 months so that they can keep it there. And then they get to then turn that money around and lend it out to a construction worker at 13.5% or taking a loan.
Oh my gosh.
This has been going on in the banking industry for a very long time. So,
gosh.
Who really understands how Chase Bank works? Come on. No way.
Yeah. It's so scary. Oh, Chase Bank. Don't get me started. I had a mortgage once with Chase, and they were like, the trouble is I'm a legislation nerd. So I literally know the law on how long TD Bank can keep my, deposit before the cash is in my account. And I know when they're violating it, but it doesn't matter. You can explain this to them a million times. They don't budge. But
they have all the control.
They have all the control. you're really opening my eyes here. And Chase, they totally illegally folded in very expensive flood insurance onto an otherwise pretty affordable
Oh,
mortgage.
wow.
Yeah. And it was all over the news that Chase had been busted by the feds for fraud in doing exactly that. And I would point this out, and they didn't care. And there were laws saying you can't fold in flood insurance illegally. They didn't care. They just did it because, do I have thousands of dollars and an attorney general, at my beck and call to, they're such gangsters.
You remember that? Yeah. Oh, big. The banks are like the mob. But oh man, it's insane. You remember Wells Fargo when they were they were just signing up accounts for people?
Yes.
And then they get a small little fine and just
off the wrist,
off the radar. But
no. But when you say, that's powerful what you just said, Mr. Davis, that you're not in control with your bank.
No.
And you are in control with your hoard of precious metal, right? You're much more in control.
When a client calls up and says, "Hey, I want to sell my gold," which is going to happen at some point, or the grandkid of the daughter of the father that bought it 15 years ago now has it, and she says, "I want to sell it," we go, "Okay, here's the market value. There's some logistics involved, but I'm not going to question you. It's yours."
Right.
It's yours.
You don't think you need it for.
No. And it's out of the system. We're not CPAs, but it's out of the system. So there's no, I don't report a 1099. It's yours. You own it. It's tangible. And I'm not going to question you, nor is anybody else here going to question you on that. So, the point being is, you have to, if we are going to live day to day in society, you got to have a car that, put gas. You have to have some money in the bank. You have to have a debit card. Pretty soon it's just going to be on your cell phone, right? Just the little wallet, all the digital apps and stuff like that. That's how you're going to be paying for stuff. And if you're going to want to, buy things, you got to you have to do it, right? Or unless you're going to just go completely off grid, which some people do.
Right.
I can't do it. My kids aren't ready. They're too young. I don't think my 9-year-old's gonna be happy about no running water off the grid. But for me, I'm gonna play within the system, but I'm also gonna have something outside of the system, and that's why I personally own gold and silver, is because I know if we go to hell in a handbasket here, which I don't think is gonna happen, but if it does, I feel good. I feel comfortable, and so.
Well, the other thing you're making me think about, Mr. Davis, is I'm just kind of adding up in my brain all the hurdles and cheating that various very reputable giant banks have engaged in just in the last 5 years, 10 years. And I'm also thinking how close that is. What are you going to do with it? Where's it going? Why is it in Las Vegas? That's so close to what happened to the truckers in Canada. Or what's happened since we last spoke to some Israelis in Spain. They don't, Canada didn't like the truckers' politics. They cut them off. And same thing in Spain. They didn't like the Israelis. They cut them off. And you're seeing a version of this in New York. I'm putting these pieces together. An Israeli-owned, and I'm not taking a position on Middle East politics, but an Israeli-owned drone manufacturer got kicked out of a New York City manufacturing area. Like there's the beginning of economic discrimination, right? So where I'm going with that is I could be very close to, well, Naomi Wolf, you want this money for a down payment, but we don't like your score on your social credit comments, right? We're this close. It could happen.
I feel it doesn't. I mean, I don't know everything. I don't sit here to claim it, but if I feel that, if you don't, that's why it just blows my mind that it just blows over so quickly, and people don't pay attention to it and don't protect themselves in some form.
Well, they don't to speak kind of on behalf of all the people who don't take action, including myself, right?
Right.
we didn't know there was an alternative, and we didn't know how, you know,
True.
and until I started talking with you and until I began following the fact that you can actually purchase and own gold and silver, which I figured out 5 years ago. Like I remember, Shanon, Mr. Davis, when I went to Amalgamated Bank, which is a very right-on bank in New York, started by, the workers, right? And they're very sweet people. I remember sitting down with my portfolio manager, and I was a broke single mom, and every little bit counted, but I was trying to save, trying to do the right thing. I don't have, a pension, it's on me if I'm going to retire ever. But I remember saying, I'd like to buy gold. And he said, well, you can't. he said, you can't, and I think he said, like, well, there are these instruments and, down the line, there could be gold in the thing, but you literally can't buy gold through in this brokerage account.
And,
yeah.
Well, yeah, if you got a financial advisor, fiduciarily, they can't, they can't sell you physical gold and silver. And, if you do have an FA, great.
Isn't that crazy historically, Mr. Davis? I mean, banks used to be where people put their gold and silver.
I know. Yeah. And they still do. I mean, that's the thing. I wouldn't keep it there personally, but some people have it in a safety deposit box at the bank. And I'm like, you're better off just keeping it at home in your safe. FAs are, they're trading on the public market in paper, like paper assets, right? It's worth not worth anything but the paper it's written on until you actually take your money back out. So you could be up 30%, but you're not 30% until you actually take that profit. And so,
wow. And some of your competitors in your space sell kind of the paper access to the gold and silver, but not the physical gold and silver. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what an FA can at Charles Schwab can sell you. A paper. A financial advisor. Sorry, a financial advisor. And so we just with us, we're just sitting another seat at the table. If you do have a FA, right? We're not stepping on that. If he sees what's going on, he should recommend a percentage of someone's money being in gold and silver, it being a good thing. If he's not solely focused on his management percentage, because they do make a percentage to manage the account. But it's just about diversifying your team, and that's what we help people do. That
makes very good sense. I mean, on reflection, it's not that he couldn't do it for me; it's that his answer was "you can't," instead of other people can do it for me. James Green has a follow-up question: did the banks go broke lobbying Congress for regulatory easements and capturing the appropriate agencies? James, do you mean did they spend a lot of money lobbying Congress for regulatory easements and capturing the appropriate agencies?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know the exact answer to that, but if you just think about it logically, the lobbyists, that's a whole nother ball of wax. That is, there is a lot of money spent there, and lobbyists control everything. That's my opinion. There's a lot of control within that. And so there's definitely a lot of money spent there, but the money spent just with where they're throwing it everywhere. It's just, and they're just, and it's not even real money. It's just, they're creating money, right? The Fed Reserve has money that they're just pushing into banks and then hoping to get some interest back, but then they never even have them pay it back.
Well, now you're really scaring me, because the Federal Reserve name is misleading. It's not federal. And it was created by the same people who invented Rockefeller medicine and nations, which became the UN. So I have no reason to believe that they even want to keep a strong American economy going long term.
There's nothing federal or reserve about the Federal Reserve. That's I'm with you. We are on the same page there, not to be a big conspiracy theorist here and with my tin hat on, but that's all by design, I feel. 1913, they also started the IRS, same time.
Right.
They years later, they built the FDIC, which is the federal, it's like the insurance portion of the Fed Reserve for banks. That was after, obviously, the Great Depression. And so they get to slap that sticker on the mirror at the bank. So you actually put your money in there. But there's no guarantee. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. The FDIC doesn't have nearly enough money that is in banks to insure it all. And so,
oh my God,
again, that's why it's, banks are, they're in trouble, but they're always going to get money, like you said, from the Federal Reserve, and they don't need, and the Federal Reserve can care less if they get it back. They're just lowering rates, raising rates. They don't really have much to do besides that.
But also they don't get audited, right? They're completely opaque.
Exactly. I mean, they stand alone. Look, that's why Trump's up in arms. That's why it's like, because he can't do anything about it. He can't, with the executive order. This guy is doing an executive order every other day, it seems like, to get his policies through. I mean, how does that make sense? It doesn't get approved, so he does an executive order to get it done. I mean, how does that make sense for Americans? Yeah. But he can't. He can't. He can't do anything about the Federal Reserve, and that's why he's going crazy. So that's why he's turning from orange to red. No, I'm kidding. But that's why he's so mad and so angry, and why he can't wait to.
I'm mad as an American. I didn't elect the people in the Federal Reserve. They don't go through Congress. They don't go through our representatives. We don't set their policy. So I could talk to you for hours, Mr. Davis, but we have sadly run out of time. So tell me, people who are listening to this, a mother, a grandmother, grandfather, someone who's trying to protect what his or her family has, what are some actual steps that they can take?
Yeah, great question. We encourage your viewers, your followers, your listeners to call us. It's the same kind of conversation we're having now, really, right? Just it's about education and then discovery from there. Like, what is the concern? What is the need? Because you got to have some type of concern with what's going on out there when it comes to your retirement savings, your money. And so we encourage you to give us a call. No pressure, free consultation. The number is 855-803-GOLD, 855-803-4653, or go to, and you'll cover it as well, but go to cloutgold.com and get a wealth protection guide. There's more information in there for you to educate yourself. It's free. And, I encourage you again to just take action in some way, in some form.
Oh my gosh, Shanon Davis, another terrifying but enlightening conversation. You really set a fire under all of us. Each time I think this is as bad as it can get, it gets a little bit scarier. But thank you so much. I feel better, more empowered.
And that's the goal, not to terrify anybody. I always feel like when you say that so bad, but I know what you're saying.
No, I've been terrifying people for decades. A lot of respect for people who are willing to call it as it really is. Sadly, I have to remove you from the studio now so I can tell people more about where to go for American Alternative Assets. But thank you again, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh my God, you heard it here, you guys. So if you take a drive through any major city after sunset, you'll notice something strange. Dark windows, empty offices. And right now, 1 in 5 commercial buildings in America is sitting vacant. This relates to what Mr. Davis was saying earlier about the banks. Nearly $1 trillion in real estate loans are coming due this year. If those buildings stay empty, the banks take the hit. Again, we were discussing this. And those are the same banks where your retirement savings are likely to be sitting right now. There's a free report called The Ghost Tower Signal that breaks it all down. It uncovers 7 early warning signs that showed up before every major crash since 1929. All 7 are active right now. This probably won't make the evening news, but it could help you protect your savings from what's coming. Download it for free at cloutgold.com or call 855-803-GOLD to get your copy mailed to you. That's cloutgold.com or 855-803-GOLD. Yikes. You guys, so scary. I mean, I thought I understood all the ways in which the dollar was fragile, but Shanon Davis really just made it so much clearer than I was even aware. So don't hesitate. Please don't hesitate. As I often tell you guys, but I'll say it till the cows come home because it matters. Brian and I first started talking about investing in gold or silver 5 years ago, as I mentioned in the interview, and we didn't. We were lazy, and if we had, we would have nearly quintupled our investment. So don't wait. I think everything that Shanon Davis had to say about the vulnerability of our system right now is incredibly profound. I don't think you should just have everything in the system. The system is rickety, as we've heard. All right, you guys, I'm so proud to have American Alternative Assets as a sponsor for Daily Clout. If you like independent reporting like this, and also fully disclosed reporting, other podcasters and influencers in the Wild West of independent media don't always tell you when something is editorial and when it's a sponsored episode like this one. We do, but that means that you can trust us for accurate reporting. You can also see that we're very, very selective about our sponsors. Every single sponsor Daily Clout has provided, valuable, real products and services, and we stand by our sponsors. We're very picky, and we're proud to have American Alternative Assets in a space where not everyone is as responsible and transparent with your retirement savings. So we need your help. Go over to Substack, and my Substack is Outspoken. Please become a paying member, a subscriber for money if you can. It lets us operate. Over on Daily Clout, independent news and opinion, civic engagement tools like BillCam and Legisector and Communities, surveillance-free, censorship-free. It costs money to get tools that powerful into your hands that are not harvesting your data and not selling your information, not using your data to track you and surveil you, but actually empowering you to follow, start, stop, share any state or federal bill, and with legisector.com to have your own industry-specific portal. So we need you to subscribe over there and donate as well. Thank you. I love you guys, and I'll see you on Outspoken or on Daily Clout very, very soon. Take care, everyone.